Hello and welcome to another comedian's interview for my blog and podcast, A Rich Comic Life. My name is Richard Gill and my blog describes my experiences of watching over 1,400 comedians for the last 50 years. I'm delighted to welcome my guest today. It's Mr. Jack Hester. Yay! Hello, mate.
How are we doing, Rich? How are you?
I'm alright, how are you?
Great.
So
Delighted
good to see you. Thank you so much for doing this.
I can't believe there was 1,400 comedians. You've seen
It's
that
bonkers.
many.
It's absolutely bonkers. My first ever gig, it's 50 years this year, and my first ever gig was Les Dawson in 1974, and then a year later I saw on holiday as well Tommy Cooper, and that was the bug.
Wow. And
It
where
was
did you
just
see Les? Where did you see Les
Scarborough
Dawson?
on holiday with with
Wow.
my mum and dad and my brother, and my home city's Carlisle, so
Yeah.
Scarborough's not too far away, and they used to go there all the time. Um, yeah, I just got the bug for it, and right with we'll talk more about comedians and whatnot later, but
Yeah.
I'm delighted you're my guest. I've been wanting to chat to you for a while. I think you're a major comic talent, and I'd like to go right back to the start. And ask you, how did you become a comedian in the first place, please?
So how did I become a comedian in the first place? I did the first thing I did that was sort of, I suppose, moving in the direction of something like it was, I did pirate radio.
Right.
So every Friday night I did pirate radio for 3 years in Brixton, where I wasn't a DJ, but I was on the show with a DJ, and I used to read out the text messages. So people text in. So the type of thing, like, people would text in and say, shout out to, John and Alan, they're getting ready, having a couple of drinks, getting ready to go to Ministry of Sound. Right? So that was type of, so I was reading out the text messages, and then I used to do a little, probably about a minute segment on a different topic. So
Yeah.
that was the thing. And then while I was still doing that, I started doing a hospital radio.
Right.
So I did that in for St. Bart's, and I did it in Mile End
All right.
Hospital.
Yeah.
And I used to go around the wards and take requests. So you go around the wards for an hour or two before the show, take all the requests, and then you just play the requests that you take. It was kind of interesting because the pirate radio, the studio didn't look like much, but it had genuine listeners. And then hospital radio, the studio was lovely, but it didn't really feel like you had many listeners.
I wish you'd been my DJ when I had my back operation years ago. I've never been in so much pain. And the DJ they rang me up and they said, "Have you got any requests?" And I said, because my back, it was right at the bottom of my back, it wasn't very pleasant, and they said to me, "Do you have a request?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "My favourite band's Madness. Can you play Baggy Trousers?" And they played it for me. It was amazing. So I'm trying to do the nutty dance in bed with a bad back.
Well, one of the things that kind of killed the damaged hospital radio a lot is people now have their phones and that. So
Yeah.
they have entertainment, and they have their own entertainment. So they're not really as bothered about hospital radio. But one of the funniest things that ever happened to me, and I heard that it happens everyone who's ever done hospital radio, was I went around, I took, I think I spent 2 hours getting requests, and then I think I did a 2-hour request show. And then when it came to the end of the show, I went to turn off the desk. And I realized I'd never turned on the desk. So, I thought I was broadcasting, I wasn't. And in hospital radio, you just have, when the live desk is on, you do the show. But when the live desk is off, they just have like old shows or kind of like Spotify playlist just playing, But and I had been told that it had happened to everybody once. It's something that happened to everybody once.
So you're doing your hospital radio. How did you get into comedy from that?
So I was doing a hospital radio. So then the next thing I did was, well, it's kind of simultaneous. Then I was writing articles for pharmacy magazines, and then I met a guy who was a personal trainer, and he wanted to kind of educate people on healthy living, and the two of us teamed up, and we went to secondary schools, and we gave talks about healthy living, and we got good feedback. Like the teacher said, like the pupils were into, but I thought our public speaking was very bad. I
Yeah.
thought we were very nervous. We were very, weren't relaxed. I thought our, particularly my own, I thought my public speaking was very bad. And then I went to a wedding, and my friend gave a really good speech at his wedding. And I asked him, how were you able to give such a good speech? And he told me that he had done 2 years of acting classes. He'd done an acting course, and he said, you're in London, there's loads of acting classes. So I did a thing with City Academy.
Yeah, yeah.
City Academy, yeah. So I did a
A
thing.
friend of mine did exactly the same thing, and they did a little comedy course, a comedy club at the end of it. So they have to
Well,
do
no,
5 minutes.
I didn't do their comedy
No.
course. I did their acting course,
All right, right.
and it was. I think it was every Tuesday after work for like 6 weeks, and I got really into it. And I basically did back-to-back courses for 12 months of
Right.
acting. And the last one I did 10 weeks every Saturday in RADA, and
Yeah.
they were all telling me to keep doing it. Like they were all saying, like, but the courses they were recommending very expensive, and then it's very time consuming to learn off the lines and everything. It just didn't seem feasible.
Yeah.
So then I decided I'd give comedy a go, and the idea was kind of I would do comedy until I found something else to do or some other way. But I was still kind of more looking at trying to do radio or acting or like something a bit different. Um,
Is that
kind
still
of
a dream?
no, no,
No.
no. I think once see, weirdly enough, when I was doing the radio, I kind of wanted to do serious stuff. And, I interviewed like I did a couple of interviews that I thought were brilliant, but no one else thought they were very good. I interviewed an economist who had predicted the crash in 2008,
Right.
who basically uses a different model of economics, who's very critical of mainstream economics,
Yeah.
not based on any kind of science or maths, and he uses the Minsky system or something like that. And I interviewed him, and I thought it was amazing. And then I interviewed a criminologist, and so I wanted to interview serious kind of people, like academic people, and do that. But I did. I thought those interviews no one were great, and then like people I knew, like my friends and family, didn't think much of them. But once I started doing comedy, everybody was like, "Yeah, this is you know you shouldn't be doing
I think
something
you
serious."
found your niche.
Found my niche, and I think it's a weird thing to say, but I felt very quickly. I felt I understood it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't. I felt I knew what I was. I wasn't good, but I felt I knew what I needed to do to get good.
Yeah. 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 What sort of year was this?
So when did I start? What are we now? We're 2024 now. It was probably like 6 or 7 years ago. So what was that? It was maybe 2017.
Right. And can you remember your first ever gig?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. First gig I did was called Cockney Comedy, and it was in a pub in Mile End, and it was an open mic gig run by Darren Walsh.
Oh
Darren
yeah.
does the puns, yeah. He was living next door, and and it was in a tiny little room, and there was about 12 people there, and it was basically just other comedians. Ali Woods was there. He was.
Yeah, it's amazing because Ali Wood's just recently done the podcast, and
Oh, did
Darren
he?
Walsh was my first ever guest, 2018.
Wow, that's amazing. But
So there
Ali,
we are. We're in good company.
yeah, and I spoke to Ali then. Like, so Ali's been doing comedy pretty much exactly 12 months longer than I have.
Right.
But he was at the first gig, and I remember to me he seemed the best at that gig, and he gave me a compliment afterwards, and that was, but I was very clueless about the whole. I knew very little about comedy or about the whole scene, and then I did that gig, and then a week later I did that gig again, and
Yeah.
then a week after that I did another same type of gig, but it was in archway. But again, it was like 10, 12 people in a pub. And then the fourth gig I did was King Gong in the Comedy Store.
Oh my God. And how good was that?
Well, this is the thing. I went there and
Brave man.
well, no, I'd say it was more naivety than bravery. And I genuinely went there and I like thought I had a chance. I was full of confidence. I'd done these 3 gigs to 10 people and they had gone well. And I went up and I'll never forget it. I jumped up on the stage and there was a couple in the front row. And I remember the girl nudged her boyfriend. And the pair whispered to him, "This guy will be good." And I spoke non-stop for 2 minutes. I didn't
Wow.
I didn't land a joke. I spoke non-stop for 2 minutes and the gong went off. And it wasn't one of those cruel gongs. I think it was more everyone. My confidence had completely confused everybody into thinking I knew what I was doing.
Oh.
And then, to be honest, then after that, like, I just was like, that was it then for me. That was like, I knew that you could do King Gong every 6 months, and I was just like, I'm just going to go off and I'm going to go back and do this again in 6 months, and then I'll do it again in 6 months,
And
and
that
then
was it.
and
Brilliant.
I remember thinking it would take about 4 years to win. I don't know where I came up with that. I just thought this is it. I thought a university degree is 4 years. I thought this will take about 4 years to win, and then I'll get to perform in a Comedy Store. And I just went off. 12th gig I did was the Blackout, and then what I started doing was I just started doing open mic gigs to practice, and I would do the Blackout as much as I could. I think I did it 30 times. I'd do it as much as I could, and if a joke worked at the Blackout, I kept it for King Gong. If it didn't work at the Blackout, I got rid of it and I started again. And it was just, and that was all I did for a couple of years.
Wow. I told many a comedian this. I had a go at stand-up comedy
Oh, did you?
years ago. Years ago. I've only done it once, and it was on a gong show at the Edinburgh Fringe. And I know I used to know a promoter there, and I just passed my driving test in Carlisle, and I wrote a script about crashing cars, and I thought this would be really funny. And I showed him it. Yeah, go on, go on. And there's 3 people in the crowd, 3 old drunks. Couldn't be worse. It was a Monday afternoon. It was raining. It was it was just horrible. And so I walked out, and literally I said to them, the 3 drunks, I said, "Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. People think I look like Eddie the Eagle Edwards, the ski jumper, but I can't see the resemblance myself." Now I thought that was a fantastic opening line because
Right,
in his heyday I was the double of him, and some
right.
other fella at the back just went, "Fuck off!" and cut us off.
Oh God.
So I walked up to my own footsteps. The promoter said, "Have another go, have another go." And I went, "Oh, never say never," I said, "but I think my calling's sitting in the audience watching all these wonderful people." And that's magic. That's what happened. Never say never again. I've
I
got
never
my
say never again.
60th coming up. I might do a compare night, but who knows? But
Yeah, you could compare. Yeah, you
yeah,
could definitely compare.
that would be quite nice to do. Maybe for my birthday in 3 years'
Well,
time.
I, I'm sure you've been. Have you ever been to Bearcat?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I know the
James
guy who
comps.
runs it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
James compares, and
yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a lot of ones. I know Sean James very well as well, who does Happy Mondays, and James Gill, of course, at Always Be Comedy. There's a lot of them who are willing to let you have a go if you want to have a go. Then another one's Leslie Gold. It's So Funny. That's a really good gig if you want to if you're looking for a good gig. I can send you the details, but she's really good. So let's move on. What do you like to talk about on stage? Do you have any particular themes or anything like that?
No, no, I don't know. I just I'm always looking for just something that's funny, and my only kind of objective is something that's funny, and I like searching for jokes or bits that get big laughs,
Yeah,
big laughs. Um, I do think um, there's a saying that I do kind of believe in. That there's a saying that kind of says you start off talking about what you want to talk about, then you start saying what the audience want to hear, and then you go back to talking about what you want to talk about. And I have a kind of a slight instinct or inclination that I feel at some point further down the line, I will start talking about something I care about or something. But
Yeah.
I don't know what it'll be, and I don't have that kind of impulse now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So for now, I'm only interested in it being funny.
And following on from that, tell me about your writing process for a routine or a show. How do you go about doing that?
Right. So I, when I first started, I bought a book called A Serious Guide to Joke Writing. I don't know if you know this book.
I've heard of it. I haven't read it. I've got loads of books behind me on the.
And it's a very good book, actually. It's
Yeah.
probably one of, like, I read loads of them, but that was probably the best one I read.
Yeah.
And there's lots of exercises in it to help you write jokes. And I used that at the start. But what I genuinely found was I found every time I sat down and I tried to write something, I never came up with anything good. Never. So I found that the better way for me would be to have an idea or a story and to go to new material and to ramble it, record it, and then try and work backwards. And I think I read a book somewhere that half comedians do that and half write. Half people actually sit down and the others, it's called writing on stage. So essentially you tell a story or you ramble out an idea and then you record it and then you try to fine tune it. But what I would have to do is for it to really work for me is I almost have to get in a kind of an excitable state of mind so that the rhythm and the way I'm speaking is funny anyway.
Yeah.
Right. And then if they laugh, then I kind of get the joke. And then the goal then is like, can that now be said without any
Yeah.
rhythm or excitement? And will it make people laugh? And if it can be said without anything and it still makes people laugh, then I have it. But then like I will perform it with a bit of energy and performance and the whole lot. But ultimately I'm looking for things that are funny without any performance. Because I had read about Chris Rock that he would do new material gigs without persona.
Yeah.
And if it's funny, then he keeps it and then he adds the persona and then that adds to it. So I don't really have a writing process, but I've been thinking about ideas all the time and I find like the best stuff I have, it was all I saw something or I heard something and it almost came straight away. I think it's very like, sometimes you listen to someone like Noel Gallagher and he'd say that he watched something on telly and he just sat down with his guitar and he wrote the song in one go.
Yeah.
And they tend to be the better songs. And it's sort of
it's so interesting hearing you say that because your style is a rambling style, and I think that's your uniqueness. That's what I love about when I see your name on a bill. I know that you're going to not fumble about. You know what you're gonna you know what the punchline is, but you're a bit like Ronnie Corbett, where he used to sit in the chair and go off on tangents and then come back and then go off on tangents and come back, and that's wonderful. I love that style of comedy. So well done.
Thank you. And I think at the end, like comedy is there's a simplicity to it, and
Yeah.
the main simplicity to it is the surprise.
Yeah.
And what I find is if I'm rambling about a topic or an idea, a new material, often the punchline that comes surprises me as well. Because I always think like when you make in your day-to-day life, when you make people laugh, it's never something you think and then you say. You just say it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's trying to recreate that on stage to find the thing,
That's so good. That's so good. I can't ever imagine you having a bad gig because you always make me laugh so much when I see you. Describe your worst experience of a gig and also your best one.
Okay, so To be honest, I rarely have very bad gigs. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't. The two that probably most spring to mind when I have bad gigs, and like one of them was just it was just a bad decision I made. Like so, I did an Edinburgh show, an hour show, and I was getting low audience numbers, and sometimes I just wasn't. Ah, I was doing a lot. I was doing about 4 or 5 gigs a day, so I was doing like comp shows
Oh, that's a lot.
where
Yeah,
I
yeah,
knew the audience would be full. I was emceeing a show every night where we were getting good numbers. But then my solo show in the middle of the day, well, I wasn't getting many people at it. Like 1 or 2 days, I'd get 30 or 40 people and it'd be brilliant. But like there'd be other days where I'd get 12 or something. And then there was one day where like 7 people showed up and I was like, I didn't really feel like doing the show to 7 people. So I was going to cancel, but then there was one guy who was like, "Oh, you can't cancel because I came to see you the other night, and I've got a great story for you about something that happened again." And then he told this story, and then we just went around the room and we told stories, and I told him stories, but I didn't do any of my material. I didn't do anything,
yeah,
and it was brilliant, right?
yeah.
So then the next day I showed up, and there was 9 people there, and instead of canceling or instead of doing the show, I decided I would try and redo what we had done the day before, where we were all telling stories and all that. But this day I had 9 people who were not interested in telling.
Wow.
So, so
That's interesting, isn't it?
it was
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
horrific. Like, but it was,
All dependent on your audience.
yeah. So it was just that wasn't what they were looking for, and it,
It's
we ran.
experience, though.
It was experience. We ran out of steam about 20 minutes in. Like I should have
Yeah,
done
yeah,
the show for them. Like there was enough for them to do the show, but it was just a bad. It was a bad decision. It was a bad
yeah.
decision. So that was probably the worst. But I've
What
had a
about your
couple
best one?
best one's very hard to like. I don't think. I'm trying to think the best one.
Has there ever been a point in your career where you've thought, yes, I can do this and I can do this well?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah,
That would happen every couple of weeks. I'd say.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
anytime you do a big club on the weekend and you do really well, you think that.
That's great.
I would feel like that
Because
anytime.
I recently saw you at the Leicester Square Comedian of the Year
Or the
competition. That was the last time I saw you, and well done for getting to the final heating.
final.
It's so well
Yeah.
deserved because you went on and you absolutely killed that night. I thought you should have won.
Which one was that? You were at the semi-final, was it?
The No, I was in the final
Or you're in the final
of the Leicester Square
in the comedy store?
at the comedy store. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, a
yeah.
comedian of the year. Yeah, no, I thought I had a pretty bad gig that night. I don't know.
Well, there you are.
Yeah, I that was one where it just I it just didn't. Hard to explain. It just didn't click for me that
Yeah,
night.
yeah, yeah.
I felt I just didn't really connect with the audience
No.
that night.
Do you
Um,
think comedy competitions are a good thing? Do you think they help a comedian's career?
yeah, like I don't like I don't have an issue with them.
Yeah,
I do think they probably like the truth of it is if you don't like them you don't have to do them. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I do think they're helpful. Like the people who win them, it can be helpful to them.
yeah,
Um, the other thing about them too is I think when you start, I think they're very good for helping you perform under pressure.
yeah,
They
yeah.
add they add an extra bit of pressure, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Um, I I've done very well in the gong shows. Like to be honest, if gong shows didn't exist, I like I'd say I would probably have hit a dead end in comedy by now,
Wow.
because yeah, because every bit of everything I've got from winning gong shows.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like
yeah,
winning the comedy store gong show got me gigs in the comedy store. Winning the blackout got me gigs at Up the Creek,
yeah,
and I won the one at Top Secret as well. I won the one at the Frog and Bucket.
yeah,
And when by getting gigs in Comedy Store and Up the Creek, a place like that, that then helped me get other gigs. You know what I mean? But like the other competitions, like you were saying Leicester Square Theatre, like the Leicester Square Theatre, Amuse Moose, So You're Thinking Funny. Like I never got anywhere in any of those competitions.
No,
Like
no.
I never got to like finals or semi-finals or anything
Mm.
with those.
It's weird, isn't it? Because it's like
Yeah,
there's so many of them, but you I mean I've been judges and a few of them, and but I've certainly been in audiences for finals of major comedy competitions, and the winners or the runners up you think are going to do big things, and then they're never heard of again. It's weird, some of them, but yet others go on to bigger things. It depends, I suppose,
yeah.
what they want, you know.
It depends on what you want, and
Yeah,
I suppose there's the old saying that like you only really have to defeat yourself. Like
yeah,
that it's if everybody thinks you're great but you don't think you're good, then I always think with these things, I always think that the best thing for you for new act competitions, I always think the best thing is to come second in all of them, because if you come second in all of them, you will there's enough validation there telling you you're good, but you'll have enough of a chip in your shoulder to keep pushing yourself. Whereas I
that's a good
think
answer.
where I think winning them can make you a little bit complacent. You
Yeah,
might start thinking you're the finished article or you're already there. So I think the best thing that could happen to you is to be unfair. If you keep coming unfairly second, you know what I mean? that
that's
I think long term,
that's a great title for a solo show. Unfairly second.
unfairly second. And there is a bit of truth to it, because when I was doing the competitions, like I would start to look at who was in them in previous years and who was in
Yeah,
them in previous finals, and also when COVID was on and when Edinburgh didn't happen because of COVID, Chortle did this thing where they were doing old reviews
yeah,
of old shows. So I started reading through all them. But the biggest acts, from what I can see, most of the biggest acts didn't do well in the competitions and didn't do 5-star shows in Edinburgh. Do you know what I mean? Most of the acts that went on to become the biggest didn't do that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
there's a lot to be said in comedy for I think everybody's learning plateaus at some point. So you're doing it, and particularly when you start, every year you're getting a lot better and you're getting a lot better. But there will come a time where you stop improving and you stop getting better. And it's the people who keep improving for the longest
yeah,
that
yeah,
will become the best. And you can't tell that after a couple of years.
yeah,
You
yeah,
don't know who's going to keep getting better.
yeah. Following on from that, how do you cope with any nerves? Do you get any nerves at all before you go on stage? And if so,
Ah,
how do you cope with them?
you get some, but like I don't do anything like
No
to cope with them. Like I don't have any kind of I
rituals
don't
or anything.
rituals or processes or anything like that.
Would
And
would
it
you
just,
would you say that as soon as you speak into the microphone or as
oh, of
soon as
course.
you get your first laugh, any nerves go?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, so
yeah,
it's only the first. It's kind of like jumping out of a plane. It's just that initial takeoff. That's the only bit and I don't think, like, because it does vary, and there's often no rhyme or reason to it. Like, you can sometimes do a big gig where you don't feel nervous, and then the next day you could do a gig to 20 or 30 people and you feel very nervous.
yeah,
I
yeah,
There's no real, for me, I find there's no real rhyme or reason to it. And I often think the best thing to do is to you embrace the energy, embrace the adrenaline, embrace the energy. And my kind of, if I had a one thing about it is, I always think when I feel a little bit unsure of myself, I always believe the best thing to do is to overreach, over push, overcommit. Because I just always think that if you're going to slip, I think an audience will always have more time for you if it looks like you really gave it a go. And that was the thing they taught us in acting classes. They always said, always fully commit. So never hold back. So I
yeah.
think when I'm nervous, I like. So I think the best thing to do when I'm feeling really nervous is to really try and hit the first joke really hard, like really go for it. And I just think if you really go for it and it doesn't work out, I think audiences always respond positively to that. But I think if you hold back and you're a little bit nervous and you miss, they're a bit, they won't be as interested in you.
It's good advice, that. Very good advice. Um, how do you remember all your routines? Do you have a notebook? Do you have
Nah,
phrases in your head? Anything like
nah,
that?
it's
How do you
just,
remember it all?
I think you just remember them, and like I would say for a lot of my stuff, the words don't have to be perfect. You can sometimes you can get the word, you know what I mean. It's not a play, so the lines don't have to be perfect. You can vary the setup a little bit. So I've never had problems remembering it, never.
I once had to stand up in front of a training group, and the brief was to teach them anything you like, and I
Yeah.
taught them the only card trick I ever known, and I hadn't done it for so long that I stood up and I forgot it. and that, and it was like, oh, I'm really sorry. I just want to go. but
But I
but
think
I think with a comedian, I think it's fair to say that the audience help if you forget things, or you can bring them in, or if you because you're trying to remember it all. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, but do you know what? I used to do a joke where I used to pretend that I forgot the joke. I used to do that on purpose. I used to tell a joke, and then I used to stop and pretend I had gone blank and that I couldn't remember my next joke. And then I used to tell the audience that I felt bad for them because it was actually my best joke, you know,
That's a
and
great
that
idea.
and that it didn't matter to me because I'll get to hear it again tomorrow night, but it's a bit unlucky that you're not going to hear it now.
Stringing them along, it's so good.
But I think one of the things maybe why I've never had trouble with the memory thing is when I started, I just gigged as much as possible all the time. Like it was almost
Yeah.
I was almost kind of obsessive. And then I think one of the things where maybe people one of the things I always thought was some people they, they dip their toe, like they stop and start a lot at the start, and I think you shouldn't. I think now I feel like I could take time off and I'll be fine. Like I could take a month off. I could take 2 months off. I could go on holidays, and I think I could come back. The muscle memory is there, but at the start, I think just keep for the first few years, just keep gigging nonstop. You
That's
know.
brilliant. That's so good. Um, I am very, very lucky because spend my holidays going around festivals and fringes. I love to go to the Edinburgh Fringe in August. I go there for a week. I see about 60 shows. I've been going there since 2005. I need a holiday by the time when I come back. And I've branched out now more. And I've been to Leicester, I go to Brighton, I go to Hull, Hastings, and I love going round and seeing how they all work out. What's your view of festivals and fringes, in particular Edinburgh? When did you first go there? Did you go as a punter? Did you go as part of a set of comedians? When was your first solo show? That sort of thing.
That sort of thing. So the first Edinburgh, I'm trying to think when was the first one I went. Might have been 2018 or 2019. So
Yeah,
the first time I went to Edinburgh, there was a guy John Foley, and he was the head of comedy, the Comedy Society in say one of the universities. I can't
right,
remember what it's called, and they were putting on a compilation show,
right.
and he asked me did I want to be in their compilation show. I think basically what they wanted was they wanted to have they were going to bring all the students from the university, and then they wanted to get one act that wasn't in the university to kind of be like their headliner act, or
Yeah, yeah.
so someone that they thought was a little bit more experienced or whatever. And I think they asked a couple of people before they asked me, but anyway, they asked me, and it was for 8 days, and the university was paying for the venue or whatever. Um, so I went up with them and I did
Yeah.
the show with them. And to be honest, it was kind of ideal for me. Now the venue was terrible. It was actually the venue was outside.
Wow.
It was in a beer. It was genuinely in a beer garden with
Wow.
like so horrific for
Yeah,
comedy.
yeah,
But we went up. It was ideal for me because they did all the flyering. So like we had a couple of busy shows where like basically all their friends came to the show and all the other university students. But when I was there, I did a couple of other compilations in Edinburgh. I was there for 8 days, but actually I went to loads of shows. And I had a friend who from university whose sister lives in Edinburgh, and he used to go to the Edinburgh Fringe. And myself and him, we started hanging out, and I probably went in the 8 days. Yeah, I probably saw 20 or 30 shows, so I went to see a lot,
it's so
uh,
good. Yeah,
and it was great. And I think, and then the next year I went as I did a split show, and I did a load of shows, and I didn't get to see as much in the full month. Um, I think Edinburgh's interesting. I think to go as a punter for a few days and watch a load of shows, I think is an incredible experience. Like
yeah,
that first year I went, I thought it was amazing. Um, the second year I went when I did the split show and I was doing a lot of compilation shows. Uh, it wasn't. If you have to flyer, it's not enjoyable. There's nothing. For me, there is nothing enjoyable about flyering, and I have a bit of a theory. I could be wrong. I kind of feel like in Edinburgh, there's rooms and times that do well, and I think there's rooms and times that if you don't have a following, it's going to be a real struggle, and you're
yeah,
going to
yeah,
have to, and you're going to be flogging a dead horse, and to really get anything out of that room, you're going to have to put in so much time, effort into the flyering that it's not going to be enjoyable. That's my view on it. I think Edinburgh's great. Every time I went to Edinburgh, my goal was just to get as much stage time as possible. And every time I went, I did. Like the last time I went, I did 100 gigs in the
wow.
26 days. Yeah, and I think the time before I did in 90 something. So, um, Edinburgh. So you can clock up a lot of stage time. You're getting to perform in different situations. So like some of the rooms are really terrible.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
In
they are.
your There's going to be days where you're hungover. You're probably going to have a cold for a couple of days.
Yeah,
There's going to be days. There will be days where you'll end up doing a lot of gigs where you do not want to do the gig. You'll be standing there waiting to go on, and you actually don't want to be there.
yeah,
So
yeah,
from that point of view, it's really good because it's forcing you to perform. Now there'll be days where you'll be absolutely dying to get up on stage. So I think it's brilliant for performance. I thought Edinburgh would, because I'm someone who writes on stage, I thought Edinburgh would be helpful for new material, and I never got any new material out of Edinburgh. Never. I never came up with one new joke, and I think there's two reasons for that. One is I don't feel the audience are. I never felt the audience were open to go with you with new material. They weren't interested in being that audience. They
mm,
want. And the other thing too is I think you're so tired and stressed that you're not coming up with good ideas.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So for me,
I mean, 25 nights is a hell of a run.
it's a lot, and
Yeah,
because of it, like the other thing too is because it's such a party place,
yeah,
you do end up drinking a lot. Like
yeah,
not
yeah,
not, not a, like I didn't drink every night, but you're drinking nearly every night. And then
yeah,
I would have like my uncle would call for a couple of days. I'd have a friend who called for a couple of days. So they're only there for a few days. So they want to really enjoy it and party
yeah,
and
yeah,
um, so for me, it's I'm glad I did it, but I wouldn't be rushing back. Like I'd only do it now. I think if I had a bit of following or I got a good room and a good slot. But my thing with Edinburgh now is I would only do it if the deal is right.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, I do think it's a lot of fun, and I'd recommend to anybody to go for a couple of days as a punter.
yeah, yeah,
But I don't. I think from a comedian perspective, I don't. I think if you're a certain type of comedian, I think if you're an alternative comedian, or you're doing clowning, or you're doing something a little bit different, that's probably not. It's hard to make inroads in the clubs because you're doing something a little bit different. I think then Edinburgh's amazing, and you need to go to Edinburgh. But I think if you're doing the type of comedy I'm doing, that is very much kind of suited to clubs. I don't think Edinburgh's the best use of your time.
You've had experiences of other fringes and festivals, though, haven't you? Because I think I've
Yeah,
seen
yeah,
them.
yeah.
Yeah,
And to be honest, I now, like you mentioned it, I love Hayes, like, because you're living in London, like, and you got Leicester now as well. So
yeah.
like,
Leicester's superb.
just to be
Just
able to
come back
go
from Leicester.
somewhere, you do your couple of shows, and then you can come home.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's I think
Edinburgh
I
is
think
the top of the country. Yeah,
Edinburgh's top of the country. It's very extreme. It's
yeah.
very full on. I do think, like I said, for getting stage time and boot camp at the start, yeah. But I think I think it's probably a healthier, saner,
Yeah.
uh, m- more pragmatic way if you just went around doing the little ones. I
Yeah.
think
We
it
we
makes a lot
um
more sense.
we're recording this in March, is it?
Yeah,
Nearly Easter time. Just come back from Leicester, and we're looking forward to Hastings. It's our fifth or sixth year there now. It's such a good one to go to Hastings.
yeah.
Yeah. The two that create the Hastings Comedy Festival have been on here, and I'm so pleased for them that it we always have a good time there, and it's just a little tiny town, but
But they're
it's
doing
so well run.
they're doing a great job because
Yeah,
they're doing what comedians think all festivals are doing.
yeah,
They're promoting it. They're pushing the tickets. They're promoting it. So the
yeah,
comedians just have to show up and perform.
yeah.
Whereas most other places, you have to show up, perform, you have to sell it, you have to market it, you have to do everything. Like, and
You
if
don't need it.
we wouldn't be doing comedy. We wouldn't be doing comedy if we wanted to work a proper job. Do you know what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. Yes. Uh, do you have any ambitions as a comedian? Would you like to be on TV? Would you like your own chat show? Anything like that?
So my basic kind of goal and blueprint and what I'm kind of pursuing is this would be my dream scenario. My dream scenario is I keep uh, like I'm getting in with a lot of clubs. I'm doing a lot of gigs for the Comedy Store. I do a lot of gigs for up the Queen, a lot of gigs in the clubs in Dublin. Uh, Slowly getting into the stand in Newcastle. So my kind of thing is I just want to get in with all the big clubs, particularly the purpose-built clubs. They're my favorite. Like, I want to get in Glee and Comedia, all the
Yeah,
ones
yeah,
that are purposely built for comedy. And I just want to perform in all those clubs and get as good as I can. And because a weekend in a big club for me is heaven.
can't beat
Like,
it. You
I
cannot
just love
beat
it.
it.
I
Yeah,
can't. I don't think you can beat it. And I just want to keep doing that, and then get my little clips, put them online. Hopefully, a couple of more of them they'll keep going viral, build up a bit of a following, and then if you could get to a point where you can transfer that following into doing a tour,
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's my
And then
dream. Like,
you're away. Have you done
yeah.
any online gigs as opposed to live gigs?
Do you know what I did during COVID? I think I did two of them. I because I still like because I'm so new to comedy, I still have a day job. So I don't have to worry about making money from comedy. So I couldn't see any appeal to doing them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and and when everybody was doing them and was saying they were great, then I started feeling I was missing out. And I was a bit paranoid that I was missing out on some of my progress, or do you know what I mean? Am I losing time here
Yeah,
where I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
honing the skills? And then I think I did two of them that were I was asked specifically to do them and they were for charity, but I didn't look to do any of them. And I didn't do well in them, and I don't think they didn't suit my style of comedy at all. Like,
It's
I
so
think I
good because having live comedy, watching it live, it's of the moment. That's what I
yeah.
love about it. When you say uh, uh, weekend comedy, when you're in a club on a weekend. I just come back last night from Headliners, and
Oh, great.
we saw Alan Davis top the bill, Headliners at Chiswick, and he was phenomenal, and he just wanted to be out there and perform. And another classic example that I love is Harry Hill, where he started off in clubs. He then got really big, got on TV, and did TB Burp. But now you just see him; he's back in the clubs because he just wants to perform live, and I think that's wonderful.
It's so enjoyable. Like the performing in the clubs, like it's very enjoyable too. But like, I love that's my favorite type of comedy as well.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I'd rather watch a club night of comedy than
Yeah.
maybe go to someone's hour show. I just prefer the atmosphere, for everything
Yeah,
about it.
that's so good.
And I think the clubs, they're the right kind of size, they're the right kind of design. Like it's just, I'm starting to do more and more gigs in theaters, and they are slightly different. The
Yeah,
vibe is different, the energy is different. I'm getting a little bit. I can see it as being as enjoyable, but there's something about feeding off the energy and working with the energy that's just so much fun.
who are your favourite comedians, past and present? Did you have comedy growing up?
Oh, loads of comedy growing up, yeah, yeah. So the first I remember, like, Billy Connolly was huge, and I always remember, I was saying this in another podcast recently. Like the one thing I always remember about Billy Connolly is I remember the cursing, and I remember it's definitely the first time I overheard cursing in the presence of adults and nobody, said anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nobody was like, like if an adult had cursed in front of me, another adult would have said, "Don't," So I definitely saw Billy Connolly when I was 8, and I was
I
young.
totally agree.
I was definitely in primary school, and that was the thing I remember, that no one drew attention to the fact he cursed, and no one said something like, "Don't you be using that language," or anything like that. So I remember Billy Connolly. Another one that I don't know if you'd know, but my dad, we used to listen to a lot of Brendan Grace
Oh yeah,
on
yeah,
cassette.
yeah, yeah. They're
Yeah,
yeah, brilliant.
my dad was a big Brendan Grace fan. He was huge in Ireland. Um, and then I remember all like the Irish comedians. Then Brendan O'Connor as well. I remember him when he was like a comedian. He was known. Everyone used to complain that all he did was curse, but I thought he was great as well. And then Tommy Tiernan was like the
He's
superstar. Like
amazing.
Tommy Tiernan,
Yeah.
like was, and the other one then that was huge for me was do you know the Unbelievables? You ever
Yes,
heard
I've
of them?
heard of them. Yeah.
Yeah, sketch group.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
they were huge. So and then there was a while where, so then when I was a teenager, I would have watched every sitcom going when I was a teenager, and I would have, if there was ever stand up on the telly, I would have watched it. I remember like there was late night at the Comedy Store and things like that on the telly, and we'd watch it, and then at Christmas, myself and my brother and sister, we'd buy each other comedy DVDs, and we'd watch them over Christmas.
That's brilliant.
You
What
know,
about what about now? Modern comedians right now.
modern comedians right now. So who do I like now? So I think like James Atcaster's amazing.
Oh, he's
Dan,
brilliant.
Daniel Kitson's
Yeah,
incredible. Daniel Kitson's the one, I think, when you watch him, it's you can't understand how he's doing it. Like
he's so
he's
good. Yeah, yeah,
so good. Like seems like magic. Um, then in America, I like Michael Che in America. I like his rhythm, and Jared Carmichael. I think they're both
yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah,
similar. They're,
yeah,
they're sort of, now they're very different to me. They're very slow, very measured.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I'd love their rhythm. I'm trying to think who else. I'd be a big fan. So during COVID, do you know when the Comedy Store did this thing where they were playing old sets
Yeah.
and you could watch them, and you could watch these old sets of comedians. And the one that stood out for me, the one that was my favorite, was Susie Ruffle.
Oh, she's so good.
And I never got to gig with her. I meant to gig with her once in the Comedy Store, and she pulled out last minute. I think she must have got a bigger gig. But
She
one of the things I
she does
loved about
always be comedy a lot. She's very funny. Yeah.
what I love her movement on stage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm a big fan of a comedian who does a lot of moving.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and I just love
She's
the
so
way she
good.
moves around the stage. So that was one that massively stood out for me.
That's
I,
brilliant.
I, I think Adam Rowe's very funny, the
Yeah,
Liverpool guy. I think he's one of the best.
There's such a lot of them, isn't there? It's so
There's
good.
loads, yeah. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
see,
When you mentioned James Acaster, I have a testimonial section in my blog, and the comedians have been very nice, said very nice things. But Acaster has got one of my favourite testimonials. He wrote, "If I wasn't a comedian, I would happily sit next to Richard Gill all day and make him laugh." I should
that's a
get
good one.
this laughing shoeed.
That is a good one.
So good.
That's
um,
great.
well, for me, my first ever gig, as I said, was Les Dawson. I saw Ken Dodd. I saw the two Ronnies. I never saw Morecambe and Wise. I would have loved to have seen them. They're the reason why I do the blog. I'm hoping Gary Morecambe, Eric's son, is going to come on here very soon.
Oh,
That'd be
brilliant.
amazing. I did chat to Barry Cryer just before he died. God bless him. And he was incredible. All the folk he wrote for. But I came down to London in the late 80s, and my first Comedy Store gig would be Linda Smith, God bless her, Phil Jupitus, Richard Morton, and topping the bill was someone called Charles Fleischer, who was a very funny American voice artist, and he was never heard of again because he went off to voice Roger Rabbit and his career was made.
Wow.
And I'm so glad I saw him. But I've been very, very lucky. I saw Bill Hicks, as you said, Americans. I saw Bill Hicks live in Manchester. I saw Steve Martin, who I love. But so many of them. Frank Skinner, French and Saunders. And my favourites now, I love Kerry Godliman. Josh Widdicombe's very funny. Just so many of them.
So many in there.
And it's just a wonderful thing. What's not to love? You know, it's just a joyous thing to promote. So thank you for being part of this wonderful thing.
Glad to be part of it.
It's, yeah, exactly. And like me, do you go to a lot of gigs as a member of the audience?
No,
No.
I don't. But I do. If I'm in a big club, I usually stay and watch.
That was my next question.
Yeah. I usually stay and watch.
Yeah. If
More,
you're on a bill, yeah.
yeah. If I'm on a bill, I usually stay and watch. But I don't. I just don't have time really.
Yeah.
So,
Plus, if you're doing it every night, you know, I can't do it every night.
but I do like to go. I do.
Yeah.
Like to go.
Yeah.
And when I go to Edinburgh, I try to go to some, but I don't. Like often, someone will pop up, you know, and they're in the Soho Theatre, and I think, oh, I'll go see them, and then I'll either already have a gig booked, or as I'm thinking about it, I get a gig offer, and I'm like, oh, you know what I mean? Like it's
we all
hard.
do that for different reasons.
It's just hard to say no to like a gig offer, you know. Yeah, I think you should. When I started, believe it or not. When I started, I went to loads of work in progress shows of the big acts, loads. Like I went to Frankie Boyle in Leicester Square Theatre. I went to Daniel Kitson. I went to Stuart Lee. I went to every time there was those work in progress shows. I went and I watched them. Eddie Izzard, I went to Frank Skinner as well, and watching them work through the material, I thought was very informative.
Yeah.
And I'd probably nearly prefer to watch them than watch the finished show.
It's wonderful watching the start of a brand new show, like you say, a work in progress, and then watching it evolve to the final thing.
And then you see it afterwards, yeah,
and see how different
different. But one of the things I love about those work in progress, because you're usually in small places, and then I love when they do the little bit of talking.
Yeah.
You know, because it's not as polished. And you get to see the person a little bit more.
Yeah. It's like Morecambe and Wise, where they've rehearsed, and the best bits are when they make each other laugh, for me.
With just a little, yeah.
And they just ad libbing, and because they're so good. There's a great line from the live video where they walk on at the end. And Eric Morecambe goes to the audience. Has anybody got any questions or comments? And a woman at the back of right at the back of the auditorium yells out, can I have your autograph after the show, please, Eric? And off the top of his head, he goes, you can have it now if I had long arms. And that's the magic of them.
That's the magic, isn't it? Because
You know,
it's just
it's just the spontaneity, and that's what I love. And again, from talking about what we were saying before, it's all in the moment. It's alive. It's got to be live.
it's all in the moment, yeah. And he that line would have surprised him. He would have been saying it without
Yeah.
realizing he was saying it. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
the
yeah.
magic. That
Yeah,
is the
it's so good. I've so much enjoyed talking to you. You've been a
Well,
fantastic guest. Thank you so much.
no problem. Thank you, Richard.
Just before we go, is there anything else you would like to say? So, I'm after things like your social media handle, any podcasts, any tour news, anything like
Yeah,
that.
the only thing I'd say is look at if you fancy seeing me, but just follow me on Instagram, comedian.jack.hester. I think
Yeah.
it's that, or it could be the other way around. But yeah, and if you see me on the podcast and you see me at a gig, come up and say hello. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I will do the next time
You
I
will
see
do.
you
Good
because,
man, Richard.
as I said at the top, I think you're a very, very talented comic, and I'm looking forward so much to seeing you again soon. And all the very best to you.
Super. Thanks a million, Richard.
Thanks so much for your time, and all the best.
Bye bye.